Jane, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And as Tim said earlier, and as Jane said earlier, welcome to the November membership meeting of the Cooperative and Condominium Advisory Council. We have a very interesting topic, a topic that the CCAC has not covered in its history, which goes back to 1979. We will review this evening holiday guidelines for co ops and condos. There are 4 or 5 components to the main topic, and there are a lot of suggestions from the CCAC Board of Directors regarding what we should talk about. So we're going to jump right into the program here at 6:44. It's an open discussion. Anyone who serves as a member of a board of a co-op or condo is welcome to offer his or her input. And I am looking forward to, and I know the staff and the board of directors of the CCAC are looking forward to a very interesting and lively discussion. So we will get it going right now. Section 1 of tonight's agenda, holiday decorations. Subsection A, what holiday decorations should be allowed inside and outside of a building complex? And subsection AA, should decorations be permitted in windows? The floor is open. Anyone should feel free to comment.
Jeff, maybe you could repeat that question.
Sure. What holiday decorations should be allowed inside and outside of a building or complex? And should decorations be permitted in windows?
So I'll go first. In our building, River Edge, we have common decorations in our lobby, and there's a team of people who decorates annually beautifully the tree and the other component decorations. That's for the common areas, and also externally. We have some decorations and the trees, the lighting, and so forth. Now, in terms of internal, we have set some guidelines where we say you can have like a wreath on your door, etc., but kind of keep the other areas clean, just so that we can ensure some kind of uniformity across the board without taking away the look and feel of the building.
Are there any thoughts on the size of the decorations? That is something the CCAC board wanted us to ask you all.
I mean, for me, it has to be relative. Us personally, you don't really have restrictions on where they can go. It's festive, and then when they, let's say, go too far or work outside the lines, you tone it down, but we don't really have anything hard and fast.
And for obvious reasons, we obviously want to make sure there are not any fire hazards and nothing in the way.
Yes,
like you can't have stuff sitting around outside the door, any kind of little trees or whatever. And in my building, we have little alcoves outside of each door. And sometimes people end up using them as like mini shelves. So we kind of sometimes turn a blind eye, but we do set forward some guidelines. We send a note saying what is okay, what is not. But since being in holiday time, we don't want to be too harsh either. So we kind of allow a little leeway.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Nami, because one of the questions involved guidelines on standing decorations, such as Santas in hallways. Are they forbidden by fire codes, decorations of those types? And are decorations of those types forbidden in bylaws of co-ops and condos? Any thoughts on that?
Well, it's a good question, and I don't know the answer to it. Does anybody?
Specifically, no.
I believe
I think it would be good if people just share what their building does. I think that would be good for us to know how people manage that in the individual buildings.
I believe in our building, and as our president is, I'm looking at him right now, can correct me. we have house rules that prohibit anything in the hallways that would,
Yep.
again, be, a fire hazard or be in the way in case of any kind of emergency. So we don't allow that, although within NAMI, which you had mentioned before, and I believe it's coming up on the next question, as far as door decorations, that we do not only holiday-wise, but we have several residents that for different parts of the season, whether it be Valentine's Day, whether it be Thanksgiving and so forth, do hang appropriately on their doors some items. But as far as hallway, absolutely not.
I'm glad you brought up the question of door decoration. Oh, decorations. Should wreaths be permitted on the doors of each unit? Any thoughts on that?
Say that again, should what?
Should wreaths be permitted on the doors of individual units?
Oh, well, we're an outdoor complex, let's say, no elevators, staircases, and so, there are actually people for the Boy Scouts to sell wreaths, on the property time to time. And so, we allow it.
My building allows wreaths, but no doormats outside the door, no little pumpkins or stances or anything, nothing in the hallway outside.
Yeah, my building too, nothing on the floor. We can have seasonal wreaths or year round. There used to be restrictions, but now I think they've gotten liberal just to make it more decorative, less boring to have wreaths on there. And some of them are quite interesting, and it's good to walk through and see different people's taste and what is available in the market.
Yeah, so you get involved.
Well, I think it's fire code also that nothing can be on the floor
On
in
the
hallway,
floor, yeah.
including doormats.
We have no restrictions. Whatever you want to do, you decorate your door. No restrictions at all.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
do.
we allow door decorations, and one year the co-op even got poinsettias to put in the foyers. They weren't on each floor, but they were certainly in the lobby areas and next to the elevators. And
Yeah, sounds nice.
Yeah, we have every year we have we are lucky to have a little bit of a bigger entrance lobby, entrance foyer. So we do have Christmas tree, we have for the Hanukkah, we have all the candle lighting. We do have poinsettias and the wreath at the entrance also. We do have lights on some of the trees. So yeah, it looks nice, but again, the question is not to get overboard and what the safety issues could be.
That brings me to another point. Since you mentioned Hanukkah and other, and we're kind of talking about holiday decorations because it's, Christmas and there are a couple other holidays coming up, Kwanzaa and so on. But that just leads me to think, in the name of diversity and all, what if people want to then put up some decorations during the rest of the year when they have their holidays? I know nobody's ever brought that up, even in my building, but it just led me to think, should we be thinking ahead on that as well?
Like what? What holidays?
Well, for example, my background, we have a holiday in March, which is Holi. Then we have it in October, which is Diwali. These are two big holidays. Just as an example, but then I may not be familiar with many other holidays.
Yeah, that's a great point. Why not?
But again, Nami, coming back to, because Nami and I, we both share the same Indian heritage. But none of our festivals are such, except for something on the wall during Diwali time. Everything else is on the floor, on the ground, which can definitely be an issue, or some people might not understand it and be disrespectful. So I think it's a brilliant point to bring up, and I think board members should be open to that thought process. As long as we can put something on a table to decorate or on the wall to decorate, which is not a fire hazard, should be something that should be considered and discussed. And I think every building is individual in their own ways. And if people want to do it, they should do it. My thought.
1,000%. That brings the community or the complex together.
Yes. And it's a good learning experience, especially if there are kids, even grown-ups, we as grown-ups can educate ourselves, but kids just do look around and educate themselves with what their environment is, and exposing different kind of decorations for different communities, festivals, I think is a good learning experience for them, and inclusivity, which is so big right now.
We take it one step further in the sense that in our building, we have balconies and we allow lights on our balconies during the holiday season. Roughly about now, some people already do have some lights that are strewn on their balconies through probably as they take down their Christmas trees, or if, depending upon what Hanukkah is, take down their menorahs or whatever. Certainly not open flame menorahs, but lit electrical menorahs from their windows and so forth. But we do allow lights on balconies as well for a limited period of time. Other than that, we really, it's not looked upon.
I think the following is an interesting question. Who is assigned to put up the decorations in the common areas of a building? Is it the building staff? Is it a subcommittee of the board? Any thoughts?
Yeah, the building staff.
The building staff, yes.
They do ours. You see, we have 5 buildings.
Wow.
So, and we have a huge Christmas tree in our garden. We have a garden. So, and the lobby is just with lights. But the Christmas tree is one huge tree in the garden, because we have 5 buildings. And every building should be the same.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Well, I think it all depends on each building. Like in my building, is one of our key board members, and she has a team of assistants who are residents. So I think it kind of fosters that community spirit as well. And she always does a marvelous job. And then the staff also helps, because we store all that stuff in our storage. And so it's like a community thing, but it can vary. It can be all residents. It can be all board combination. That's up to each building to determine, I think.
We are only one building, and over the years, we've always had staff not only put up the lighting and different items throughout our lobby in the front of our building, but they've even upgraded and kind of added new things, and we leave it to them. They've always done a great job that way. But it's staff who puts it up and takes it down.
I have 2 buildings, and I think it should be the staff until unless somebody who knows the system quite well, because what if somebody does not do the right job and it causes some fire or damages the exterior of the wall or something? So is that is that a concern, or it should be somebody who knows the building well, and the staff knows the building quite well?
I think there's obviously an insurance aspect to that. If you have your building superintendent or an employee putting up the decorations and they are injured, you have workers' compensation insurance to address that injury. If you have volunteers putting up the decorations, and especially if they're on ladders or whatnot, and they fall and get injured, that could be a potentially serious injury. If you're going to engage volunteers for that type of, for lack of a better term, physical activity and work, you should look into a policy that not very many condos would typically have, or co-ops, which is called a volunteer accident policy, which would cover medical expenses and certain liabilities for somebody getting injured, that would not it would not hit your general liability policy. it would be like a separate standalone policy. It's pretty fairly inexpensive, but you know, if we're going to get into a discussion about having volunteers do this type of work, it's something that needs to be mentioned.
Any other thoughts? Okay, we'll move on to the next question. This is also a very interesting question. What about fines that boards should or should not charge to residents regarding violations of decoration guidelines, damage to the property while putting and removing decorations? And who monitors? How is a warning communicated before a fine is charged? That's a three-part question. It's also, again, a very interesting question. Who would like to start?
Jeff, let me make one point. You cannot fine unless the authority to fine is given in your corporate document, and that would be the proprietary lease. So even if you might pass a resolution, it would not be enforceable in a court unless you have the authority to fine.
So Ken, then I have a question. I mean, what Jason said led me to think of another thing. You know, we have all these different committees that do stuff for the co-op, whether it's a gardening committee or something else. What if somebody gets injured there? I mean, I never even thought of that we need like a volunteer's insurance. Or should, like you said, Ken, should we just have a standard I don't know the right word, non-disclosure is not the right word, where people just sign saying, no, I'm volunteering and there's no liability. We are not responsible.
You really cannot waive the ability to sue for negligence for an ordinary act. It would be probably against public policy. You could sign some type of advance release, and as good as it is, you know, it's better than nothing. But the point that Jason makes, I think, was a good point, and maybe something that we should promulgate to our co-ops and condos for the protection of the entity for volunteers. I think that was an excellent suggestion that Jason made. But in terms of fines, that's a different issue.
Any other comments?
Well, regarding the fines, it should be business as usual. Like if somebody has parking violation, they're issued a fine. Whatever the guests stay beyond 3 days without signing in, that's a violation. So we do incur a minor fine, and usually we do a courtesy like warning before we impose the fine. So I think this would be no different if there's some guidelines that have been established. If there are gross violations, that I feel like we should be able to ask for a fine.
I'm always against it.
I'm sorry, Gladys, go on.
I was just saying, I'm always talking to the board against fines. They're always putting fines in different things. I'm against fines. Just me.
I think going back to what Ken was saying regarding the insurance part and what Jason was also saying, our insurance coverage has committee insurance, like the admissions committee and other committees. We have the small portion which says the committees are also covered with the board for any kind of.
Most likely that's your directors and officers liability insurance. Directors and officers liability insurance excludes coverage for bodily injury. That's strictly for your alleged errors and omissions relating to your decisions or actions as a board member, not relating to
bodily injury. Okay, so then I think it takes us back to like volunteers who are not trained to do things or who do not know how the building operates should not be putting up decorations, because we don't know what can damage what. And it can incur some more extra costs. Just my thought.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would
So
just,
what,
go ahead.
what are the violations that are relevant to a fine? What are they? I mean, they pay high maintenance and to pay for them to pay again fines. It's extra money on the high maintenance you pay. That's how I look at it. So what exactly are the violations that are relevant to a charge?
I think that depends, Gladys, that depends on each building's bylaws, rules, house rules, and so forth. So any violation of a house rule is subject to a fine, in my opinion. However, I do agree with you; it has to be done kindly and with judiciously, not just keep on imposing. That's why you have courtesy things. Some in our building, they first get told just by word of mouth. Then property manager, if they continue to do something, this is in general, and then they might get a letter, and then maybe a third time it might be a minor fine. I mean, how else do you manage or govern so that there is order and it's respectful to all of the people in the building?
Yeah, I think each potential property on this call right now will have their own way of handling it, but in essence, yes, different shape of the buildings, different layouts, whatever, the fines will be relative to what you got on your property, I would think.
And also the house rules should read that out.
As opposed to a template, let's say.
Yeah.
In this case, as far as that we're dealing with the holiday season, I would hope that, the spirit of that holiday season,
Yeah.
no fines would be given at any time. But as we're a self-managed co-op, for us, just a knock on the door from our in-house property manager or super would suffice in informing a resident that what they've done is not appropriate and so forth. And again, the hope would be that would be respected just by doing that alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when should holiday guidelines on decorations be sent to residents? Would that be middle of October, end of October, early November? Any thoughts?
I think just right now, with Thanksgiving coming, it should be around this time, start of the holiday season.
You might want to go to October because there's a lot of decorations there sometimes as well for Halloween.
That's a great point.
I have seen that the Halloween decorations the last year or two have really taken off. And, particularly for outside decorations, it's a lot easier to put things up in October than it is in December.
That's true.
So maybe something early October that would cover all the holidays is probably the best. And if you have people who have significant holidays in the spring, and your experience tells you need to put something out then you put something out because that's what your building needs.
I think that's a great point because in the spring we have Easter and we have another festival that we mentioned earlier. So
St.
maybe
Patrick's
twice a
Day.
year. Yeah, good idea.
I personally think you can very easily, as you'd said, Nami, twice a year, but then, you can also put out notices as you're going into the holidays in the common areas so that it's visible. People forget things and lose things easily.
Great.
Yeah, we have newsletters and little snap frames on the outside of the buildings as well to keep everybody up to speed.
Jeff, I think, should we move on or?
Yes, we should. What about the dates to remove decorations? That was the final question in this section of holiday decorations, Nami. The dates to remove decorations, January 2nd, January 10th.
No, 12 days after Christmas.
Okay.
Who's Christmas? We have some
Okay.
Ukrainian folks here who celebrate Christmas on the Julian calendar.
Mhm.
Mm.
So they're about 12 days behind us.
Yep.
So, I think you have to respect that for
Yeah,
different
sure.
people, even the same holiday may not be the same time. And I think for outdoor decorations, you also have to be a little flexible, whatever your policy is, just with regard to the weather. We're a garden complex. I live at Gateway, same as Steve Smith. And, if people have stuff out on their balcony and there's 18 inches of snow on the balcony, they're not going out to take the holiday decorations down.
Nobody can see the holiday decorations.
Those lights sometimes shine through the snow and look pretty.
Yeah, they melt.
Either that or that's called common sense, but also that you could use within any notification a no later than date that things have to be taken down. And if it's the 12 days after Christmas, then that's part of your, your notification.
Yeah, just to be safe, maybe end of January.
I would say you can't go past the end of January. I mean,
Yeah.
we typically leave our tree up to the end of the first week in January, and then you got stuff outside, you're milking it a little bit,
Okay, that concludes section 1, holiday decorations. Let's move on to section 2, parking challenges during the holiday season. How should boards deal with parking issues from visitors during the holiday season? That's a very general question, but I'm sure most of our participants in tonight's meeting have their own individual ideas. So there's question number 1. How should boards deal with parking issues from visitors at this time of the year?
Presupposes you have parking spaces, doesn't it?
You have extra.
Well, it does, and it also will make a difference whether you have assigned parking or open parking.
Right, exactly
At my
right.
co-op, we don't have assigned spaces. We park wherever we wish in any of our several lots. But we do still have a limited number of spaces, and so we can't have an unlimited number of guests coming in overnight. So we ask them to get a permit when they come in so that we know they're there overnight. And I guess our security gate, if we ever were reaching capacity, might have to turn people away, but I don't think it's happened yet.
Well, in general, in my building, obviously, we have rules about parking. We have assigned parking, but we do have a certain number of visitor spots because our building is situated in a place where you couldn't go outside and park on the street anywhere. So we do enforce a couple of rules there, like, guests can park up to 3 days, 3 nights. But sometimes people abuse, people don't want to pay for their parking and they'll end up using visitor parking. So we've had to enforce some of those rules. But comes the holiday season, we do send out a reminder. And at the same time, we ask our community, our shareholders, our residents to say, if you're not going to be using your space, please let us know. So the person who manages parking is the central person. So if you need an extra parking because you have guests coming for the holidays, we check with that person and she knows if there may be another resident spot might be available. So that's another very community-like thing that we do. Like I'll be going away for Thanksgiving and I'll make sure that, hey, I'm going to be gone Wednesday and I'll be back Monday so my spot can be used. So that's how we manage it.
Yeah, I ask a question, Nami, whether it be you or others, who, as far as and it's a few questions, so multi-part, who enforces the parking, let's say, whether it be in your building or anybody else who has undesignated parking spaces is number one. Number two, do those visitors have to sign in? Is there a doorman or anybody that they sign in so that management or the super knows whose cars are in the lot. We have very limited visitor parking, and it can, be difficult at times and other times not at all. So the enforcement and as far as registering with anybody on coming into the building and parking.
Well, in my building, we have a registration, just like you said, Mark, where if there's a guest, then it's up to the resident whose guest it is. Make sure that your guest did sign into that. If they park, first of all, we tell them, like when my guest is coming in, tell them, make sure you park in visitor. Okay, and then as soon as he or she comes in, I make sure that they have signed into that book, which says, I'm visiting this unit. Here's my car license plate, etc. That's it. And when you check in and when you check out, and then the security guy at night, he goes and checks all of the cars. If they are parked for more than 3 nights, the same car in visitor, then that's a violation. And then also, to discourage residents parking, we kind of monitor that as well.
Any other thoughts on parking challenges?
Unfortunately, we don't have a guest parking. You have to park on the street.
Oh.
We have a parking committee, and we have a very long waiting list. We don't have enough parking for the residents, for shareholders. So we can't give guest parking. You park outside on the street. Unfortunately, we don't have guest parking.
What are your best practices of handling violations? So, Nami, you had mentioned you're going to be gone until Monday, so you would want your spot vacated probably Sunday evening.
No, I can tell them that no, they can have it till Monday evening, whatever, when I come back.
But I guess my question is, who handles the situation if they overstay? You come home on Monday and somebody's still in your spot, that's going to be a problem.
And that's a great question. I hadn't thought of that. See, that's why we're having this session, because we don't think of all those things. So far, we haven't run into a problem because people are forever grateful that they were able to get a parking. And we try. I mean, it takes just a little extra thought for us to let know. And the person who is, like I said, the parking person in our building, everybody knows who to go to. So you do need to have a central, so there's no confusion. And then the person who implements it is the security guard. So in partnership, we work that way. But your question, and I'm sure there have been situations where not even holidays, you come to your spot, assigned spot, and somebody's parked. And so how do we handle that? That's a whole different thing. Well, you try to be kind. You don't want to immediately, the rules say outside that your car will be towed. And we have an assigned company that tows, but we don't just get nasty and call the towing right away. We try to give it some time. I might just come back and put my car in the visitor spot for a while in case somebody was running late, etc., etc. So,
Any other comments? Okay, we'll move on to section 3, holiday packages. We've talked about this at the CCAC board meetings. Very often this time of year, mailrooms get really, really jammed up with holiday packages. So one CCAC board member had the following question. Can a board ask a building staff member to deliver packages to individual apartment units? I've never seen that happen. I lived in a co-op for 8 years. I didn't see that happen. But what are your thoughts on that? Anyone?
We live in a high rise.
This is Chris.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
My building, that's what they do every day. Your packages are delivered to your door. So I think if it's, holiday time and the mailroom is getting backed up, or the lobby in our case is getting backed up, it just makes sense. The other thing that they can do is, notify sometimes people don't know that they have a package if it's a gift or something. And then tell them to, come and get it.
Staff member would do that, correct, Christine? The building staff member?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Christine, have you ever had an issue where they've received so many packages that it's a potential fire hazard lining up outside their door? Because I'm looking at my mailroom right now and, condo.
Well, right. So rarely does somebody get more than, 2, 3, even in the holiday season, on their right in front of their door. But the mailroom for 120 units, and mostly it just is in the lobby, and then they bring them up. We don't even have a big enough mailroom to handle all the packages. So the lobby just gets overwhelmed, and then the door staff brings it up.
We have it in our building where on occasion, certainly the door handles sometimes come in and really and clearly note on the packages where it's going, because sometimes you just can't see with the fine print, so they'll at least be noted that way. And then occasionally staff will bring it upstairs to the different residents, and we're kind of a very friendly, neighborly kind of group. And if I'm coming up to my floor and I've gone for my mail and I see a package for a neighbor or so, we all kind of help out and bring a package or two up to our neighbors. And that helps alleviate some of the congestion down in the mailroom.
Yep. We have some of that. We don't have a mail room, so all of our packages either hopefully get delivered to the door of the individual, and if not, they often, Amazon and UPS just leave it in the foyer where you have to wade through it. So, sometimes on your way into the building, you may see something addressed to one of your neighbors, and, if it's convenient, you take it up. But we've tried to get these delivery services to, finish doing their job and take it to the apartment it belongs to, and also to ask people who know that they are expecting packages, to contact Amazon or UPS and request specifically that it not be left in the foyer.
I think this problem got worse after COVID. Before that, UPS and FedEx and all, they used to deliver packages right outside. I mean, they enter our building and they deliver outside the door. But I don't know what happened. They just got used to leaving everything in the lobby or in the mailroom. And I should have taken a picture and brought it here. It looks like a mess, our mailroom, So that's a big challenge.
Has any building had a problem with packages being stolen?
That was going to be my question.
We have not.
Oh,
We're lucky we have not.
Yes. And there was one time I saw on TV the mail courier delivered the package and then turned around and stole the package. I saw that. Luckily, the owner was home and just came out, because I believe he saw him through the camera and came out to speak to him. So it happens. There's still a lot of packages around the holiday.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, time to move on to section 4, which reviews tipping suggestions. And we have a lot of comments from the members of the board of directors of the CCAC on this section. Staff tipping. Should a board issue tips of the same amount for all building services workers, supers, porters, door personnel? Comments?
Well, we have a tipping pool. And the idea behind that was that there are employees who are less visible to the residents than others and who might be left out. So everybody contributes to the tipping pool if they wish, and then it's distributed by management. We have two categories of employees. We have the maintenance guys, and the superintendent will help decide how those tips are distributed. And then we have our security guys, and our head of security helps decide how those tips are distributed. And then beyond that, you're of course welcome to do any individual tipping that you like to, the maintenance guy for your building, or somebody who's done you a favor during the course of the year, or who's given out, observed giving outstanding service.
So in my building, we do during one of our board meetings, we have two board meetings a month. One is with the full property manager as well as the maintenance supervisor, etc. But then the second meeting in the month we have board only. So during the board only meeting, we do talk with each other, and we very methodically talk about all the key services like the sanitation workers, like even the fuel delivery people, etc., and including the property manager and our maintenance crew. And we determine the tips, and we usually follow some rule like based on their salary, is it 1 week's salary or 2 weeks salary, etc. So we use some method to give those tips. That's assigned by the building to all these people. But in addition, we leave it up to the residents, whatever they want to do individually.
The first is really a bonus.
Okay, could be a bonus. I thought we called it a tip, but that's okay. A holiday,
To me, that's it.
No.
About tips during this time of the year for mail carriers, Federal Express, UPS workers of those types. How does the board determine that? And should the categories I just mentioned all receive the same amount in terms of tips? That's a question received from a board member of the CCAC.
We don't do tips for other service providers. It's our immediate employees that we give the tips to, and that comes from our budget, and it is from the whole building itself. But other service providers, we don't give any tips.
I think we give tips to the city employees that collect our garbage and recyclables, but that's something that the management office handles on our behalf. They're the only ones I can think of that we tip. You really cannot tip your mail carrier. It's not allowed by law. You might bake them some cookies, but there's a certain dollar limit of a gratuity that you can provide.
I think it's $25.
Yeah, something.
Someone mentioned that. Yeah, someone mentioned that in the comments section of the proposed outline. Between $20 and $25 for a U.S. Postal Service worker. So we're on the same page with that.
So Jane, you're right. I think officially when we do, and we do cover, like I mentioned, the sanitation work, like the people come to collect the garbage as well as fuel delivery, etc. We do take care of our security personnel. There are two of them, and of course the staff. But you're right. I don't think we've done the postman, the mailman, because of this reason you mentioned. However, personally, I've always done that, and nobody's ever objected when you give a tip. I just do it discreetly. Just leave it in an envelope and with his name on it in my mailbox.
Oh, okay. Well, they're not supposed to take anything out of the mailbox.
They will.
That's another one of the rules.
Hey, I've been violating a law all these years.
And hopefully that it's your regular mailman instead of someone who's just there. our mailman somehow is always on vacation, but or has a day off. But yes, for us, as far as regular staff, there is, whether you want to call it a tip, whether you want to call it a bonus, is set up. I believe, that maybe our sanitation does get something, but other than that, we leave it up to everyone to do on their own. There have been times when, I, as a board member, or I'm sure others have been asked by newer residents what and how much is appropriate. But that we give no rigid suggestion coming from the office or anything else. It's all on your own.
Yeah.
And we just go from there.
Yeah.
Makes
I
sense.
think usually it's the other way around, that your vendors are bringing you gifts at the holidays.
Maybe to the super, but not to the board.
Not to us.
That's correct. That's correct.
That, and the one thing I am surprised at least in our building, is when I was told, by someone several years ago about the percentage of how many people do give and unfortunately don't give to those who, work and assist in our building. So that I found unusual. But again, everybody does their own, and they're on their own.
Jane, is that a union law? The one about the mailman, as you said, it's a law. We didn't
You
know.
can look it up, and it's $20, and it's non-monetary. It's of a value up to $20.
Oh.
It's federal law.
Yeah.
So one can leave a bottle of wine in the mailbox, right?
Okay. A cheap bottle of wine.
Cheap bottle of wine.
End of year holiday
So this is-
bonuses for building employees. What should go into that thought by boards of directors? That was a question by a CCAC member, a CCAC board member to us. Any thoughts on that?
What do you mean, Jeff? Employees? Employees are the staff, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So
The super, the porter, the door workers, the handy workers. Yeah. What would go into their holiday bonus in terms? It's based mostly on merit, of course. Correct.
Not always. It's sometimes based on longevity.
Okay.
And the number of hours they work a week.
Could be percentage of salary as well.
A percentage of salary. Yeah.
We use
That kind of
percentage
thing.
of salary. Yeah.
What about the managing agent? Are they tipped or given a bonus?
Well,
That is a big question.
I missed it. What did you say?
We used to have, our managers used to be our direct employees. And when we were on that system, we gave bonuses to the manager. Once we switched to the managing agent system, there was a lot of controversy about, because they're not our employees, and should we be giving them bonuses? And depending on the board composition of that year, sometimes the answer was yes, and sometimes the answer was no. Some managing agents anticipate a bonus and are not very happy if they don't get one. Others may not have that anticipation, and I don't know if it depends on the particular property manager, or if it depends on the policies of the managing agent that you've hired.
Any other thoughts? Neelam, did you have something? I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
our experiences, like for the holiday party, when we invited them, they very politely declined. They said it's not something that they should be attending. So I don't know how they would. We don't do it, but I don't know how would managing companies feel. I don't know, but my experience was they declined the holiday party.
Yeah.
Can I ask you
I
a
think
question?
that's what Jane you were saying, because the managing agent is basically like we are their clients, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's right. That makes sense that they don't come to the client's party.
Yeah, and one assumes that they're getting a bonus from the managing agent that employs them.
Mhm.
Can I ask you a question that kind of, Neelam, you brought up, and Nami, you also mentioned, as far as being with COVID, we had used to have a holiday party in our lobby for all the residents, and our staff would join us and so forth. And then certainly with COVID, we ended it. And for the first time in a long time, we're now going to have, a holiday party in person. Can I ask, kind of get a sense of who does or who's having an in-person holiday party?
Oh yeah, we do. We have for shareholders and children. After we light the Christmas tree, then we have in the recreation room, we give a party for all the children and gifts. We give gifts for the children. We buy gifts for them. And we still do it every year. Every year we do it.
Yeah.
So face to face, we have a party, except during COVID, but we do every year.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we used to have a number of parties. We had a big party for Halloween, a party for the Christmas, New Year holidays, and all of that went away during COVID, and it's just never been brought back.
Our party is more like the board members and the committee members. It's for them because I don't think so. After COVID, even we've tried to have parties, we've just not had good outcomes, so it never happened. But during the holiday time, end of the year, the committees and the board basically we go out to a restaurant and basically it is some people like it that it comes out from the budget, and some people don't like it that it's coming out from the budget. They think it should be paid by yourself. I'm split on both of them, but that's where we invited the managing agents and they declined.
We do exactly the same thing every year. We go out to a restaurant and we invite the managing, our attorney, our accountant, even though our accountant did not come, and Jason did not come.
And who pays for it? Do you guys split it or it comes out?
No, it's from the budget, and the treasurer said it
okay
comes
to do
out
it.
like $4 or so each. He works it out.
Yeah.
So Neelam, that is our bonus for putting up with all the abuse.
I think it's fair enough, but at the
Exactly.
same time, I feel it's not fair when we say there's no money.
Exactly. That's how
That's where my split is. It's a volunteer job, and it's definitely fair enough that
Exactly.
all the work that is being put by volunteers, they can easily spend at least $30 per person. But then when it comes out to be $400, $500, and you say you don't have money,
you
have money to spend on a get together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's sad, but it's that's where the conflict is.
Yeah.
So in my building, we used to have both a summer party at our pool, and it was always a big hit, and then a Christmas party in our lobby. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. It be organized or driven by the board, and of course, little committee of the holiday party. But it just became so unmanageable. And then I think after COVID, we have not taken that up. So we don't have either of the two parties anymore.
Okay. Can someone share the bonus you give to the super? How do you arrive at the amount? Do you give increase to the super every year?
no, we were talking about tipping, Gladys.
Yeah, I know the tipping is separate, but I just want to have an idea of that.
Yeah, we use it as a percentage of the salary. Like I forget now whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something that we've been doing every year.
As a tip or as a
As
bonus?
percentage of his salary.
Yes.
Isn't part of their contract, like labor contract?
As far as increase in salary, that's part of the
Yes.
union.
That's separate.
That's
That
different.
is separate. That's not that's not what
We were not talking. I thought we were on the subject of just gratuity,
Tips, right?
tipping,
So,
bonus.
okay. Yeah,
Just
not
I was just interested, just the bonus. I just want to know what other co-op and condos, what you give your super for bonus.
And that's what I think, Gladys, we are saying that it is part of the contract that they have with the union. The bonus.
No.
That means the bonus?
No, that would not be in the contract.
No.
That's something the board decides, and
Yeah,
it usually is
the
like
board decides. Yeah.
a certain 2-week salary.
For the
as a
tipping or
bonus.
for the
Yeah, I think
bonus,
it's probably
not the
typical.
holiday bonus. Am I getting confused?
I'm talking about the holiday bonus.
Holiday bonus. Okay.
Yeah, that's all we're talking about in this discussion.
Right.
And I was calling it tipping or appreciation, and I known as bonus in other way, but it's just for the holiday time.
Holidays.
It's got nothing
Got
to
it,
do
got
with an increase or raise of this.
No,
Okay,
just
got it.
that, just the holiday bonus.
Jane, we're at 7:40. We've covered most of the content of the outline. At this point, I would like to thank Nami Kaur, Mark Cohen, Christine McCabe, Jane Curtis, and Gladys Bart Williams for their input to the program moderator guide. And I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to moderate the discussion, which I felt went very well. And I will turn it back to Jane Curtis at this point.
Thank you, Jeff. So thanks everybody for turning out for this lively and informative discussion. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving and get completely stuffed. And we'll see you.
Well,
We'll see you, I guess, in January.
Yeah.
And I also want to add that to our moderators guide, everybody contributed. Neelam, Dory, Steve Smith. So thanks to everybody. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for making this a community so that we can function better.
And we were doing the same thing by having a round table so that we can get everybody involved.
Yeah.
I think the purpose
Because some of these decisions are not easy, and it's good to hear what others are doing.
I think it's interesting that although you're trying to form guidelines and templates, it's still so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You get all these different mature programs that still have to have some latitude because it's subjective. I think it's great.
Yeah.